Thanks for coming back to PokerNews.com. We are here with round 2 of interviews with William Kassouf.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for continuing to talk to us. So, unfortunately, you busted the main in a familiar fashion. Tell us a little bit about the hand.
The main event here, yeah, it's quite surreal, quite funny actually, in one way. Not so funny that I busted out, but the way in which I busted out, you just couldn't make it up. Having seen the coverage, episode 13 in the World Series coverage there, how I busted out the first aces, loose ace, jack, blind and blind, ace high flop, ace saw, guns corner pair, and then finally my bust out hand against Griffin Bendra. My kings against his aces to go out that way in a massive cooler. I think that the hands play themselves. I think with the stack sizes then, I think I had to get it in eventually. But had I not lost the hand and as many chips as I did in the previous hand with aces against ace jack, then maybe the hands played differently and maybe I could have laid it down at some point, either pre-flop, on the flop, or on the turn. But yeah, it is what it is. We saw the hands. I think it had to go in by that stage. Kings versus aces, then to come here, play EPT Malta. Day 2, I thought hashtag randomly rigged, put me on the feature table again for day 2 of EPT Malta. And yeah, lo and behold, yeah, the script was already written, obviously. I'll pick up kings and then run into aces, and exactly the same coup. It's unreal. So that's how it went down.
So let's talk more about the WSOP Main Event, bust out hand. We've seen the coverage now, the showdown with Griffin Bendra. Tell me your side of the story.
Well, in terms of hand, I think we've all seen what happened. He's raised under the gun. I've 3-bet. He's now taking his time. He's now 4-bet me. So I know he's strong. He's not doing this light. He's not 4-betting light under the gun. So I know he's got like literally one of 3 or 4 hands here. He's either got ace, king, queens, possibly jacks, and aces, obviously. So I'm crushing 2 or 3 of those hands, and I'm only losing to 1. I think, like I said, because of my stack size then, having lost the pot with ace against ace jack, I only had 11 million behind. Once he 4-bet to 5.6 million, it was either 5-bet shove or fold. So I'm trying to get information from him, as in, how strong he is. As much as I've got a strong hold, and people say, oh, it's a snap shove, why is he tanking, why is he thinking so long, it's always going in, but it's one pair. Do I want to commit my whole, put my whole tournament life on the line with one pair when he could possibly have aces with the action that's gone, and he could possibly have aces like he did. So in hindsight, yeah, I wish I had laid it down. I did actually think at the time, some people were asking me, I did actually think at the time that I was going to lay this down. To quote Freddie Deeb when he says, I make one big lay down every tournament, and he's Lebanese, I'm half Lebanese, and I was nearly going to use his quote and say, I make one big lay down every tournament, and this is it, and lay down pocket kings face up. And I'd have been gutted if he showed ace king or found out he had queens or jacks, But at that stage, I came to a conclusion, especially when all the pressure was put on and the clock was called on me. I think, listen, it's kings in the day. If he's got aces, he's got aces. It's just a massive cooler. With my stack size then, I think one side 3-bet and he's 4-bet. It had to go in by that stage. But at that time, I still had to engage in conversation with him. And the action was on me. He'd 4-bet me. I had to see how strong he was, whether he really did have aces or ace, king or queens. Trying to get some information from him, literally. I said nothing untoward, wasn't disrespectful or insulting or berating whatsoever. Literally all I said is, I got a big hand here, I'm not wasting time. It's all in or pass. What do you want me to do? You tell me. Kind of thing. Suddenly he flipped, and this initial part wasn't shown on the actual coverage. He started saying, this is verbal abuse, you're an idiot. And he called me an idiot across the table, and he slammed the table. The bet's 5.6 million. They cut that bit out, I think. You can see the rest of it where he says, you're verbally abusing me and everything, and check your privilege. I thought, what's that about?
There's a lot of talk on Twitter, and a lot of people are sort of unsure what that even means.
Yeah, check your privilege, kind of like saying more of a kind of like status thing, that he was like higher up and I was lower down. Some people saying it's more of a racist kind of remark, like check your privilege, going years back in terms of what that means. So yeah, obviously it was something nasty aimed towards me. The fact that he said that, the fact that he said it was verbal abuse, which is absolutely ridiculous. I think it's embarrassing for him to say that. I think even his fellow Canadians are even saying that's embarrassing to see that on TV, to say it was verbal abuse.
It was part of his strategy to get back at you to speech play. Maybe, I mean, he obviously didn't have you on kings, probably. Yeah. So maybe to sort of rile you back up to shove light.
Yeah. Well, possibly. I don't know.
It doesn't really matter at aces, so he wants you to shove anything.
The hands play themselves. I don't think that if that was his intention to get me to shove it in with 8s or 9s, and I had that kind of hand to ship it in with 8s or 9s or 10s or whatever, then fair play. He's done a good job there. But when I had kings, whatever he said or did wasn't going to rile me up. It wasn't going to get under my skin. On the contrary, I was the one who was getting under everyone else's skin by doing my speech play and keeping a cool head and being mentally and psychologically stronger than the rest of us.
Do you think he genuinely flipped out, or do you think it was part of an act?
I think Like half an hour. He genuinely flipped out. I think he was getting frustrated when I was bombarding with all the questions, hadn't acted on my hand. Action was on me. He just wanted me to get on with it. I think he flipped out, but I think it was premeditated in terms of I think he'd been given the information misinformed by the likes of Veo, especially. Because, yeah, he was quite a nasty individual in terms of stirring things up and saying, I berated a woman to tears, which is absolute rubbish.
That was Alan Kessler wanted me to ask you that, why you think he lied about that.
It's absolute rubbish. I think he's exaggerated a lot. First of all, I didn't berate anyone in the whole tournament, let alone whether they're male or female. And secondly, no one was reduced to tears. I even saw a tweet from Stacey Mattson herself saying, no one has reduced me to tears. I don't cry about poker. So she admitted herself she wasn't reduced to tears. So
He said something along the lines of you have to be tough to play poker and I'm tough.
Indeed, of course. So fair play to her. I'm glad she's made that statement because that clarifies the situation that no one has, no one was reduced to tears, no one was berated. I think people are jumping on the bandwagon and are trying to get on, the other team's side in terms of like Team Josephine, if you like, and when they all ganged up against me, and people like Igor Kurganov as well, and out of the blue, just posting on Twitter, does everyone not remember when he reduced a woman to tears? And I think Daniel Negreanu piped up in my defence, yeah, no one remembers because it didn't happen, and that's exactly what I said. So no one remembers and no one forgets because it didn't actually happen. Chat shit, get banged. So I had to put that out there and put that on Twitter. So that was my response. So it never happened. It was all lies. So I think Griffin Benja was misinformed, given that perception that I was this evil kind of like a guy that berates people, that reduces women to tears. And this is the information he had and misconception that he had, and that's why he lashed out, and that's why he wanted to really go for me and come at me, if you like. So that explains pretty much his outburst and why I did it. And I think later in an interview, to his credit, I think he admitted he was misinformed. I wasn't anywhere near as bad as he thought I was from having seen the coverage himself, and obviously the perception of me was a lot worse than what I actually was and how I actually acted. So I think he might have regretted his action, but still there's no excuse for what he did. I still don't think he got a penalty for what I did, which is outrageous. Not only for what he said, check your privilege, and I'm an idiot, and verbally insulting me across the table, but he has to have control of his rail. And from what I heard and from what my friends said they heard on the rail, they're shouting things nasty about the UK, about England, about Brexit. And it was quite bad. There could have been an altercation on the rail. Luckily, it didn't come to that because I only had a few of the Brits there. But I know a few of the guys back home, when they heard about it, they said there would have been a massive fight on the rail had they heard what was said. It was really bad things about the UK and about England. But I just left it. I didn't hear it myself, so I heard it through hearsay from what my friend said. But it was quite bad, hostile environment. But I was there to play my game. I was in my zone. I was focusing on my game, my hand, my opponent, and that was it. I was in the zone. Didn't let it affect me. I thought psychologically and mentally I was much stronger than all of my opponents. I think I played a perfect A game, perfect mental game there. Got under my opponent's skin. That was, that's their prerogative if they want to go on super donkey tilt. But I felt I did nothing wrong. Played within the rules. Played my A game and did as best as I could. Just unlucky with the cooler in the end. But it doesn't explain or justify Griffin Benja's actions for the way he reacted. I think it's disgraceful. It's shameful, really, on him. He should be embarrassed. It's embarrassment to poker the way he's reacted, not just for the pros, but for all recreation players, for anyone coming to look into the game in the future, to aspire to play in the World Series of Poker, to play in these massive events, like the most prestigious tournament in the world, to see what happened this year at the World Series of Poker, not just from the players, but from the tournament director's point of view. It was a shambles. It was a disgrace in terms from the players, how they reacted, and from the tournament directors, how they officiated the actual tournament, and the rulings they gave were completely wrong.
Do you expect that they're going to change some of the rules next year?
There's been a lot of talk, actually. A lot of people messaging me about saying, there should be a change to the rules. We've had the Jamie Gold rule. We've had the Hevad Khan rule. I think that people are calling for the Will Kassouf rule, If it is, all well and good, obviously I'm going to be for that.
What does that rule look like to you?
I don't know. Well, they had the Jamie Gold rule that came in, which pretty much is based on the fact you cannot disclose the contents of your hand. You can't talk about the contents of your hand, because what Jamie Gold did was brilliant. Effectively, he talked about his hand. Majority of the time, he told the truth about his hand, and that's pretty much what I like to do. I don't like to say I copy Jamie Gold or I copy Daniel Negreanu. There's certain elements of my game that's similar to those two, but I think I've got my own unique style of play that I haven't seen anyone else adopt, or I haven't copied anyone else specifically. But I think the Jamie Gold rule came in because of his speech play and the fact that he was talking in every hand and told everyone what he had. That's what it came in. But from the rules this year, I think they improved it slightly. I think Jack F will try to go on the defensive, say, we've improved it from the standard TDA rules, where you are now allowed to talk when you're closing the action. The only time you can talk to your opponent about your hand is when you're closing the action, i.e. they've gone all in, the action's on you, there's no more chips in play. You're either calling or folding. The action's on you. You've got the decision to make. Then that's the only situation in which you can talk, which seems quite bizarre because against with the hand I had against Matthew Moss when I'd opened with pocket threes and he shoved all in with ace-8, I was closing the action. Clearly, he'd gone all in. I was the last to act. The decision was on me, and I'm trying to get information from my opponent. Does he want me to call or not? Charlie Cerezi then butts in, who was the TD at the time on the feature table, saying 1 player per hand. I thought, what's this about? And this has caused a whole Twitter storm. And Daniel Negreanu's backed me up on this. What the hell is this about? This rule does not apply whatsoever.
I talked to Charlie Curl about it as well.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I saw that interview actually. Fair play to Charlie. So yeah, thanks for that, for backing me up. And yeah, he speaks an honest game. He's a genuine honest guy, and he said it as it is. It's completely ridiculous. What do you mean 1 player per hand? Well, I'm there. I'm sitting there from my hand. No one can see my hand. What do you mean 1 player per hand? I'm not asking for advice from any other opponents. What they want me to do? I'm asking my opponent. Does he want me to call? That's the only time I'm allowed to ask. Do you want me to call? When he's gone all in. There's no. If there's more chips in play and there's more action, whatever behind, then I understand you can influence action, influence play. But the gentleman's gone all in. The action's on me. Decision's on me. I'm entitled to ask. Do you want me to call? Are we racing here? You got ace high, I've got a pocket pair, you want to race? That kind of thing. And then when they clamped down, no 1 player per hand, and Charlie went over to see Jack Effel, and without even asking for Jack Effel to come over the table, Jack Effel then used his own discretion and his lack of common sense, if you like, to come over to the feature table in the middle of the hand, when I'm facing an all-in bet, in the middle of the hand, rather than waiting till the hand played out, rather than waiting till someone called a clock, eventually if I was taking too long after 2 minutes, to call a clock, wait for the hand played out, and then say, William, can I please have a word on the side? Would it be the most logical, most common sense thing that any TD around the world would have done? But it seemed to be that Jack Effel decided to come in at that moment to give me a lecture. And then what he said was even more embarrassing, which put himself in a silly spot, made himself look silly, when he said, well, it's none of your business whether he wants you to call or not. I said, excuse me, what do you mean it's none of my business? He's gone all in. Of course it's my business. Every bit of my business, whether I want him to call. He's gone all in. I've got the decision here. I think he's shoving with ace high. I had to even explain it to him. I've got a pair. I think he's shoving with ace high, Jack. I've got decision. And he turned it around, and as if he just ignored completely what I had to say. You have to be respectful to the players. You can't be disruptive when the action's on them. They got a decision to make. I said, are you kidding me? I've not done that at all. If they got a decision to make, I've never called a clock on them. I've not been disrespectful. And in this instance, he's gone all in. The action's on me. What are you talking about being respectful to your opponent or giving them the time to think? Why do I need to give him the time to think? He's gone all in. He's sitting there. Oh, but he doesn't
have to think. He already made his decision.
Yeah, he's already made his decision. So this ruling made no sense. And then he said, when Cliff Joseph piped up, but he's not saying anything to you, so just shut up. Just get on with the game. You know, he's not responding. So what's the point of it? But that's irrelevant. And then Jack Effel even pointed that out. Well, he doesn't want to talk to you. Then I had to point out the fact that Matthew Moss was sitting there in silence. He never said he didn't want to talk to me. And even if he doesn't want to talk to me, that's irrelevant whether he wants to respond to me back. I've still got the right. It's my right then, especially in this coup, when I'm closing the action and then the decision's on me, to ask him about the hand, whether he wants me to call or not. So this is what was completely wrong about the decision, completely turned on its head, and it's completely bizarre, unheard of, and yeah. The rules have to change because of that. I mean, it was their own rules that they've changed at this year's WSOP. That's the only time you can speak to your opponent, yet I was told I couldn't do it when this was the only instance when I could. That's what made it.
Someone on Twitter had a question regarding that. Let me find them. At K Bakhtiari asks, have you had a conversation with Jack about his actions since this has aired, or will you?
I wouldn't mind. I'm free to talk to anyone. I've got nothing to hide. I think I played within the rules every time. Whether they say I push the boundaries to the limit or I bend the rules in my favour to my advantage, but you've got to use whatever edge you have, especially in the WSOP Poker Main Event. Whatever edge you have, play your A game, bend the rules if you have to the max, push the boundaries to the limit, push the players to the as far as you can go, and the tournament directors if you have to, without breaking the rules. And that was the most important point. And I think Jack Effel admitted on camera that I wasn't actually breaking any of the WSOP rules, you know. So to answer his question specifically, at K Bakhtiari,
you plan on having a conversation with Jack?
I plan to. I wouldn't mind having a conversation with him, sure. I mean, I think he's recently spoken to you guys in an interview.
He has not reached out to you? He's
not reached out to me, no. I don't think he will. Because I think even Daniel Negreanu, even Phil Hellmuth have backed me on this point. I think Daniel, recently in his recent podcast, Podcast 5, so I'm plugging this one for you, Daniel, Full Contact Poker, Episode 5, he backed me up on that. Every time there was an altercation between William and Jack, William was right. He goes, yeah, we know he's a lawyer, you know he's going to stand up for his rights, you know he's going to argue back. But every time there was an argument or altercation between the two, William was right about the rules. Every time there's something about the rules, I was right and Jack was wrong, which is ridiculous because he's the tournament director of the WSOP Poker Main Event, and it's as if he didn't know his own rules. That's how bad it was. They handled it like awfully, really bad. I was right in every scenario, which I didn't expect to be, but I was right and stood my ground. And now other people are seeing it, having seen the coverage, that I was right in every aspect of every single ruling that was given was wrong, and I was right. So.
Well, you certainly have a lot of fans and people on your side on Twitter, because I've been asking for questions on Twitter, and we have a lot of people, say hi, can I grab a beer with him when he comes to my city? Another guy asks, at PokerIng, can you ask him if he's coming to Macau? If so, when?
Wow, haven't thought of Macau, never been. Love to go. Love to go to a couple of places where I've never been before. I think the first on my agenda is probably the Aussie Millions in January, February, I think it is. Never been to Aussie Millions, never been to Australia. So great time for me to go and explore. I go around Sydney, Melbourne and beyond there, explore the country there. Never been that side of the world to go there. So love to go there, explore the country, play the Aussie Millions as well.
And is there summer in here? It's beautiful and everyone goes to the beach. It's supposed to be a really fun event as well.
I heard it's good as well, and New Zealand as well. I heard it's really picturesque, arguably nicer than Australia. So no offence to Australian fans out there, but no, I've heard they're both beautiful countries. I'd love to go there. For Macau as well, great destination. Great, it's like the Vegas of the Far East, if you like, from what I've heard. Obviously, it won't be as big and as plush as Vegas, but Macau is massive in terms of the gambling, the poker scene there. All nosebleed stakes. I don't play nosebleed stakes, so I love playing. Yet. All in good time. No, I like to be in for the mint and to get the max. I like money, so I like to hold on to my money rather than just blow it in quick succession. But no, I'd love to visit it just for the experience, just to see about tournaments there and have the experience to say that I've played there. But
and it's a very different poker culture. I've heard. I haven't been, but I hear it's just the way they play poker and just the energy is much different than any other place in the world.
Yeah, I can imagine. being in Macau, more Asian and predominantly Chinese. Yeah, I can imagine what the scene will be like. But I can't comment because I've not been there, but I've heard it's lively, to say the least.
Exactly, to say the least. If I pronounce your names wrong, I apologize. At Dave Damone says speech part is part of his strategy. Is tanking part of his strategy as well?
Don't necessarily tank for the sake of tanking. I think a lot of people have been putting me down and slagging me off for tanking. But what you got to appreciate, this is majority of the tanking that you've seen was day 7. We were playing day 7 on the WSOP Poker Main Event with like 21 players left or 18 players left, whatever it was. You're down to the final 2-3 tables of the biggest tournament in the world. You're playing for $8 million. I'm not rushing into any decision, no matter what hand I have, whether it's pre-flop, post-flop. I'm never snap folding anything. I'm never snap calling anything unless it's all in before me and I've got pocket aces. That's the only time I'm snapping pre-flop. Even kings, I'm thinking about it, like I did against
obviously,
like I did against Griffin Benja, because it's a possibility he does have that one hand, and don't want to go broke with one hand. And there's still more play, even though I was shortish. I still had more play with 11 million chips, so I didn't need to go all in. But I think the hands played themselves eventually, and I had to stick it in.
He also says yay or nay on the shot clock.
I don't mind, whatever. I mean, it's not down to me on the shot clock or not. If they implement it, fine. I'll have to get used to it. Being a good poker player means you have to be versatile at the table. You have to adapt to every situation. You have to adapt to every player. You have to adapt to every rule that's brought in. So if they bring it in, so be it. If they don't, they don't. Personally, I'd like to be able to play my game. I think there's a lot of thought that goes into my game. There's a lot of method to the madness, if you like. I don't just play ABC poker. I don't just look at my hand. I don't just see if I've hit the flop, I fold, or I've hit the flop, I raise, or if I miss the flop, I fold. So there's more to my game than that. You're playing the play, you're playing in position, you're floating in position. I don't just play ABC poker. There's a lot of hands that where I had decisions. I think I'm getting break for not folding immediately when I had the King 5 hand. I think Matthew Moss had shoved all in, and Jared Beswick just called. I don't think he even shoved, and I was wondering why he just flat called out of his stack. So I took a moment to think, hang on a minute, if he had such a strong hand, he would have shoved. Obviously, if Blesnik had shoved at that point, I would have snap folded. But he just called. I think, what's he doing? Should I float him here? I think I had an overcard with a backdoor straight draw, backdoor flush draw. As sick as it sounds. All right, I've got king high. But what's he doing in the pot? But I realised he's put in majority of his, or more than half his stack when he just flat called Moss all in. So I thought, I better get out of the way. But even then, I folded within 30 seconds easily. People think, oh, why is he tanking for that? We're talking about 15, 30 seconds here on a 2-hour clock. Why are people berating me for tanking or slow rolling or whatever they want to use? I think that's rubbish. So I'm never snap folding anything. I think maybe I play slower than other players, but there's a lot of thought that goes into my game, and I never snap fold or snap call anything, like I said, unless I have aces and I'm facing all in bet. So,
do you take deeper in a tournament, or do you always have all this stuff in consideration from level 1?
Generally speaking, I'll play at the same pace from day 1 to day 7. I don't think there's many issues earlier on. I think it got a bit heated later on, especially on day 7 with the likes of Josephy and Veo and Blesnik and Haller, who all went on tilt because of my antics and taking the time. I think they all wanted to play faster. You heard Cliff Josephy in his interview, well, let's just get on with it. Let's play cards. We want to see more hands. Well, it's easy for him because he's got a big chip stack. He just wants to build on that and terrorise the table himself. But yeah, he could play his game his way. I'll play my game my way. I had nothing against him. I would say nothing about his play or anyone else's play at the table. It's not my right to do so. Everyone's entitled to play how they want. They bought in for $10,000. They could play how they want. I bought in for my $10,000. I should be entitled to play how I like. So neither the players nor Jack Effel nor anyone else has the right to tell me how I should or shouldn't play my game.
Within the rules.
Exactly. I was coming on to that. I'm playing my game my way, but playing within the rules. As long as I'm playing within the rules, why can't I play my game my way? And I was told effectively a number of times that they tried to, pin me down, trying to hold put me down and hold my game up in that regard. And what wasn't shown on the broadcast, which I was disappointed about on the ESPN, because some people have messaged me individually saying I'm uncharacteristically quiet. On the final episode, like 18 left or 21 players left, I wasn't saying a word. I was sitting there in silence. Everyone else is having a laugh and a joke now. They're all relaxed, and I'm just sitting there in silence, like a stone face, completely serious. Like looks like I'm pissed off. And the explanation for that, because they didn't show it on the coverage, which I'm disappointed about, was because Jack Effel had come up to me on the feature table. So they can't say they omitted it or didn't see it or chose not to broadcast it, whatever. But he came up to me on the feature table and said, "If this carries on, if you're going to keep speaking to as you are, even in heads-up pod, I'm going to give you a 3-round penalty." I said, "Jack, you've got to be reasonable. What do you mean 3-round penalty for what?" He said, "Don't argue me. It's going to be a 3-round penalty if you keep this up. You have to show you're showing disrespect to the players. You're being disruptive. If this carries on, it's going to be a 3-round penalty." I thought it was absolute jokes. I had to take that on the chin. I thought, well, it's got to be fair. If I'm going to show them respect, which I am, they have to show me respect back. They're calling me a clown a number of times because saying I got IQ of a parrot, and I'm getting slagged off by Joe Blesnik. So I played $10 tournaments, and I've got 4% of myself, which is laughable. So I don't play town, play much bigger than $10 tournaments, and I had 100% of myself in the main event. So there goes his 4%. Other than doing swaps with a few of the Brits. But yeah, it just goes to show how it was. And yeah, I'm a bit disappointed that they didn't show that what Jack Effel said to me on that feature table to threaten me with a 3-round penalty. I don't know if it's whether to save his ass, to make him look better than he already is, but I think he's already been put in a bad light, the way he acted and the rulings that he gave. But I think that would have been the icing on the cake, or the final straw, if you like, if they had put that in to show that he effectively said to me, if you carry on, it's going to be a 3-round penalty. But that's what he said to me, hence why I had to shut up, hence why I couldn't say a word. I was worried every time I opened my mouth I'd be subject to a 3-round penalty. So I thought it was a bit ridiculous. And bearing in mind, having thought of that and seeing how Griffin Benja reacted, how he verbally insulted me across the table, called me an idiot, said, "Check your privilege," completely lost it. And he was completely out of line to me. As far as I know, he didn't get a penalty at all. So to think of that, and to think that I would have got a 3-round penalty if I just opened my mouth, talking the heads-up pot, saying nothing insulting Britain at all, is beyond me. I think that's where we have to see more consistency in the WSOP rules. I think there's 3 things. We need clarity, transparency, and consistency. Consistency being the most important, because I think that's what everyone around the world is kicking off about this year. There's lack of consistency. There seemed to be one rule for the likes of Gordon Veo and Cliff Josephy, especially when Jack Effel seemed to succumb to the pressure of the table. He's seemed to be like the shepherd of the flock, if you like, with the rest of his sheep just chiming in and gang up on me when they could, and then Effel obviously succumbing to the pressure and having to give a ruling against me in their favour, because the whole table was going against me and thought I was disruptive. Therefore, Jack Effel came to the conclusion I was being just disruptive to the table, and then issued me with a potential 3-round penalty if I carried on, which wasn't broadcast, which I'm disappointed about. But there you go.
So what they did show, and they did broadcast, is after you busted, you went around, tried to shake everyone's hand. Not everyone was receptive to that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that? It was very unsportsmanlike.
It was very unsportsmanlike. I mean, I thought, win or lose, you always see me smiling. I thought I'd lose with grace, go out with dignity, with a head held high. Whatever happened. I got coolered in 2 massive hands. As you saw, the aces against ace and Kings versus aces, the bust-out hand. Went round to shake everyone's hand on the table, one by one, wish them good luck, no sour grapes, even whether I like them or not was irrelevant. I just busted them in. I thought I'd shake their hands and wish them good luck. I think the first person who refused to was Michael Nowinski, which I thought was a bit off because he was a more kind of like calmer character compared to the rest of them, which all fired up and really wanted to come at me, like they wanted to have an altercation with me. But he seemed to be a bit more subdued and calm. As Canadian himself, he acted completely different to the way Griffin Benja did. So I was very surprised when I saw that on the coverage, that you can see I clearly held my hand out and he could see it as well, and he just walked away. He just kept his hand to himself. He didn't want to shake my hand, which I thought was a bit off. I think I recently saw a tweet from him saying, "Oh, the way he was taking his time in hands and he was taking it was being excessive in terms of his tanking." I thought that was very disrespectful, and that was the reason why he didn't want to shake my hand, which is a lame excuse if you ask me for not shaking someone's hand when they just busted the main event. Just get on with it. Just shake their hand, wish them good luck, and that's it. Why are you not going to shake someone's hand because they took time in a pot and that annoyed you? That seems really feeble, pathetic excuse. I'm disappointed in him really. The second person was Jerry Wong, I think it was, the New York guy. Tapped him on the shoulder and on the side. He knew I was there. He knew I was coming around the table. He saw me there and he just turned his shoulder. He literally just turned his shoulder, wasn't interested, didn't look at me.
Like Jaws, coming up, Donna, you were coming for him.
He saw me and he knew I was came around the table like anti-clockwise. I was shaking like 3 or 4 players' hands before him. He could see me coming. I even touched him on the shoulder to effect say, "Oh, good luck, man." And yeah, he didn't want to know. He didn't want to look at me, he didn't want to shake my hand. So I said nothing to him, never played a pot with him. So I'm very surprised, especially that 18-handed on that table. People ask about history between myself and Benga and myself and Wong and Nowinski. But against Benga and Wong, for example, it's the first time I played with them. I was only sitting there for literally like 10, 15 minutes because our tables had just broken and we were 18-handed on the final 2 tables. So I'd never played a pot with them. So for them to react that way, I thought it was disgusting. It's embarrassing for them, make them look like arrogant so-and-sos. But that's just the way it is, you know. Everyone's got their own personality and their style. But I think for those 2 players to do that, Nowinski and Wong, to react the way they did, I think was shameful, really, for the poker community as a whole. You know, just generally, for whatever tournament you bust, regardless if it's the main event, 100 tournament, there's a certain etiquette and sportsmanlike behaviour at the table, especially when you bust the main event or bust any tournament. You go around the table, shake their hand. Why wouldn't you want to shake the guy's hand? He's out of the tournament. He should be, if anything, on their part, they should be delighted and elated that I'm finally out of the tournament. Yes, fine, good luck, thanks for the good luck, see you later, kind of thing. I'm glad you're out. At least Griffin Benja shook my hand. I think he was a bit more relaxed at that time. He'd just busted me in the biggest pot of the tournament with Ace versus King, so I think he'll look like a big idiot, so to speak, if he didn't. So at least he shook my hand, but it doesn't give any excuses for Nowinski and Wong how they acted, and not to shake a player's hand, regardless of whether it's me or any other player. You know, it's bad etiquette. It's bad for poker. No one would like to see that, especially at that top level in the biggest tournament in the world. So it's a shame to see, really. So it just goes to show how I was treated badly in the main event. Overall.
Does your experience affect your decision to play next year in the WSOP, or is it such a big event you're going to play no matter what?
I've been going to Vegas every year for the last 5 years, so I hope to play it next year. I plan to play it next year. So I put Jack Effel and his crew on notice from now that I intend to be there. I don't aim to be disruptive. I don't aim to be a nuisance. I don't aim to break any of the rules, which I didn't break any of the rules this year anyway. I just aim to play my game, just do exactly what I did this year. So if they have to change the rules, knowing that in 9 months' time I'm going to be there to do the same thing and play my same game and play my same mental game and potentially get under people's skin, potentially like get tempers flared, then so be it. Then change your rules. If you have to change the rules, change the rules. I think a lot of people are saying there's a lot of call for it now. Not just to say there's a Will Kassouf rule or to big myself up to have a rule named after myself. But I think, like I said earlier, there has to be clarity, transparency and consistency, most important WSOP rules, and they failed to show that this year. And how Jack Effel responded and handled situations was shocking. I think he had a nightmare of a tournament in terms of directing. I think over previous years, generally, he's never had a bad year like this. And this is by far his worst year of tournament directing in the history of the WSOP, as far as he's concerned. And I think just generally in terms of all tournament directors, I don't think anyone's had a worse tournament to direct than Jack Effel this year, I'm sorry to say. Just everything he did was wrong. He was more succumbed to pressure, felt that the need to do something, and rules were made up on the fly, which Daniel Negreanu pointed out as well, like TD Robbie on the feature table on day 5 against Jason Les, saying once you've made a bet, the actions on your opponent, you cannot say anything. What? When was that a rule? What do you mean I can't say anything to your opponent? Of course you're allowed to talk to your opponent even though you've made the bet. That's not a rule at all. So even Norman Chad piped up, he didn't think that's a rule. Daniel Negreanu's confirmed that's definitely not a rule. They just made the rules up on the fly because it was me. They never said that to any other player in the whole World Series, only me. So it looks like they're making the rules up to suit them, to like pin me down, to try and kill my game. I couldn't talk when I made a bet. It was absolutely ridiculous. So they just made the rules up as they went along. How is that transparency? How is that showing consistency? So that's what needs to change. That was embarrassing for them, embarrassing for Charlie as well, to say 1 player per hand, which is completely irrelevant in this situation when I'm facing an all-in bet from my opponent and I'm closing the action. 1 player per hand is absolutely ridiculous. And then for Jack Effel to say, to chime in and to compound matters even more, to make matters worse, then to say it's none of your business if he wants you to call, and he's not talking to you, so what's the point, kind of thing. Well, that's irrelevant. That's why I can talk to him.
Read facial expressions and the way they move their hands.
I'm trying to get read or trying to get information from my opponent. It's irrelevant whether he responds back to me. What's that got to do? He's made him sound so amateurish in terms of his rulings and his justifications. So I think it has to change. The rules have to change going forward.
On that note, at Sasha N asks, does he think WSOP rules need to be revised to avoid future confusion around borderline behavior?
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't consider it borderline behaviour, but I definitely think that the rules need to change. They're quite ambiguous now in terms of what players can and can't do in terms of speech play or table talk, as they say in the US. So I think we need to have more consistent and clear rules of what can be said and what can be done on the table, because I think you could see from this year's WSOP, the way they handled it was appalling. The rulings they made were completely wrong. I think lots of the top players in the game, like Daniel Negreanu, for example, and even Phil Hellmuth, are now on my side in terms of what happened in the rulings and the speech play, etc. So I think they do need to change. I think especially from what Jack Effel told me off camera, and this wasn't shown on the broadcast, which I'm really disappointed about, but I probably understand from ESPN's point of view why they didn't do it, because it would ruin his reputation. That could potentially end his career. But the fact of the matter, he said it to me, and I've said it on a number of podcasts, number of interviews. Jack Effel said to me, it was off the feature table, it was during a break, we're standing on the floor together. I don't recall whether it's day 5 or day 7, because those were the main 2 days I had a conversation with him about my speech play strategy. And he said, and I quote, "Your speech play strategy is too advanced for the WSOP rules." That's what Jack Effel said to me. And as much as I took that as a compliment, how can one player's speech play strategy be more advanced and bigger than the WSOP rules? It was ridiculous. If that's the case, and there's no rules to govern what I did, because I was my strategy.
You're so advanced.
My strategy was so advanced with WSOP rules. You can understand the reasons for his actions, that they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to deal with me. They didn't have any kind of rule in place that they could pin me down, because they were wrong. And every ruling that they brought against me was completely wrong. And moreover, it made him look more silly, because he contradicted his own rules by saying you can do this when I couldn't, and vice versa. And I couldn't speak to my opponent when the heads up pot because it's none of my business. Well, of course it is, kind of thing. So he got it completely wrong in the rules there. But yeah, to go back to that point, how can one player's speech play strategy be bigger than the World Series of Poker rules? It seems ridiculous. So it's going to open up a whole can of worms in the future if they continue to keep the rules as they are. People like myself will continue to exploit that. If there's a kind of like loophole, if you like, in the rules, there's nothing that governs what I do. I'm not doing anything wrong.
William Kassouf copycats.
Exactly.
God help us.
A lot of people are trying to emulate in my success and copying me up and down the country in the UK. Phrases like 9 high like a boss and the coconuts, and it's going mental.
You have a catchphrase, like a boss.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't know how did that even come about? Is this something you normally say, or did it just sort of come out and then you just kept saying it?
It just came out at the time. It was 9 high like a boss is my favorite. I think like a boss was a few years back. I think there's a video done on YouTube. I wasn't thinking of that at all, and I've seen quite a few memes of like a boss doing something like, yeah, you're the man, kind of thing, like a boss. But I think it came to light, and the whole world was using it, not just against when I had bluffed Stacey Matheson with 9 high and showed it 9 high like a boss and big heart of a lion, which they're saying as well, to make that move. And the people are using that as well to show that you got guts, you got courage, kind of thing. But 9 high like a boss there, and against Lau as well, the young Chinese guy on the following day, I think it was on day 6, when I bluffed, I got counterfeited on the river with pocket 9s on the Queen 10-10 and then Queen board. Queen 10-10, Queen 8 board. So yeah, I got counterfeited with queens and 10s on the board. I know he's got ace high in this coup. I know he's got ace king or ace jack, and I'll try and get him off the hand. I had to bet 1.25 million. Eventually he tank folded after I put the pressure on him, and I had to show it 9 high like a boss. And because I did it 2 times in a row, I think Antonio Sfandiaro and Phil Lark in the pro analysis, they were hilarious. I thought it's going to be a quite subdued, serious pro analysis. The first thing you see Antonio
and Phil Lark subdued.
Yeah. Well, more when you generally think when it's here's the pro analysis from Antonio there, you think, oh wow, they're going to talk about it, man, but how they're animated by it, and Antonio 9 high like a boss. Not only does he get jacks to fold pre-flop, he gets best centre pole of the river, stands up and shows 9 high like a boss and shows his cards. So yeah, he was going giddy. I love how he's animated about it, and lots of people are loving that, loving the fact that I did it in the first place. Yeah, so it's just catching on. It's just something I thought of at the time. Obviously I had 9 high. I didn't plan to do 9 high like a boss before I played the main event. I happened to have 9 high against Stacey Matheson, and I bluffed off it, and it was a natural thing that came into my head to say 9 high like a boss, because I just bluffed in a 1.2 million chip pot, which is the biggest pot of the tournament at that stage on day 5. And then to do the same against Lau, I think that's why that added to it. The fact that I did it a second time wasn't just a one-off. I think I did it 3 times that tournament. Those were the 2 biggest pots that I did it with 9 high like a boss. So it's just caught on and everyone loves it. It's good. It's good for the game. It's good entertainment. It's good fun. You know, this is how poker should be. Poker should be fun. Everyone should enjoy the game for what it is, whether you play recreationally or play professional level. Just enjoy the game for what it is. You're there. It's a social game. You're playing with 8, 9 other people for 12 hours a day for 7 days, like in the WSOP Poker Main Event. Just enjoy it for what it is. Just enjoy the occasion. Enjoy the experience for what it is. There's no need to get uptight. Let it get under your skin and let it affect you emotionally and psychologically, because in my opinion, if you're not mentally, you're not strong enough up here, you're not good enough to play. And if you're not good enough, you shouldn't be playing the WSOP Poker Main Event. I nearly said that to the rest of the players on the table. I didn't need to, because clearly it was getting on their skin. Clearly I knew their mental game wasn't there. They weren't mentally strong enough. So in my opinion, they weren't good enough. They shouldn't be playing the WSOP Poker Main Event. But no disrespect to them.
No, you want bad players playing the main event so you can take their money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they're bad players. They're world-class players, but I was shocked by their reaction and how they reacted, and just a bit of banter, a bit of speech play, taking my time in between hands, got under their skin so much that they got frustrated. We're talking about the best players in the world here, multi-millionaires, multi-bracelet winners, and we're not talking about your average amateur player in the local casino playing a $100 tournament. So this is what was shocking, and this is what made great TV. I mean, I wasn't planning to do what I did or tilt people intentionally just to make TV. I was just playing my game. How it came out, I looked more like the hero rather than the villain at the end of it, whereas I think a lot of people were saying I've got to be prepared to be portrayed as a super villain from Great Britain. I think ended up being more the hero and then the villain. I think all the other players were made look like the villains, and Jack Effel as well in terms of his rulings, which I think were completely wrong. So yeah, so just go out there, enjoy the game. I hope they do change the rules for next year. I think they do need to change the rules. It would be a massive compliment to me if they have a Will Kassouf rule or William Kassouf rule, if they don't use my full name, to like basically clamp down on what you can and can't say, to just have more clarity, so it's not ambiguous in terms of what you can say and what. So there are no grey areas. There shouldn't be in the WSOP poker rules. It has to be clear cut. What's right, what's wrong, what you can do, what you can't do. Should be set out in black and white. I think so far it's left to the discretion of the tournament director. What in his view is perceived to be excessive chatter. What was in his view is disruptive behaviour, even though there's no specific. If you do this or you do that, it's disruptive. So I think that has to be like toned down a bit, because I think Jack Effel, in my opinion, was too heavy-handed, power tripping, if you like, in terms of his rulings and how he came across and how he gave his rulings, especially against Stacey Metzenhand towards the end. The worst part of that ruling was after he'd given me the 1-round penalty for taunting, and I tried to explain myself. He said, if there's one more word out of you, I'll give you 2 rounds. I mean, that's ridiculous. How can any tournament director in the world say that? It's as if he was on tilt, and he has to be the most impartial person in the whole room. He's a tournament director of the whole WSOP. How can he just say, when I'm trying to justify myself, he's already given me the one-round penalty, that's fine. He's probably not going to go back on that. I'm not asking him to do that. I just want to explain myself so he doesn't go away.
Point of view.
He doesn't go away thinking I'm berating women, I'm reducing them to tears, or anything like that, or I'm doing anything untoward, or taunting players. It's not my style. It's not what I do. All I was trying to do, try to explain myself, and he said, one more word, you're going to have a 2-round penalty. So I had no choice. I had to just go straight on the rail, and he just walked away. So I think that's ridiculous for any tournament director around the world to do that, let alone at the World Series. So that was unacceptable in my eyes. I think that was shocking on his part to react the way he did. I've never seen any tournament director anywhere in the world in the last 20, 30 years ever react like that. So I don't know if he was flustered or he let it get to him, or he felt as if I was putting the pressure on him with all the cameras watching and everything, that he was forced to make a rash decision like he did. But then, even if he got the ruling wrong and gave him the 1-round penalty for taunting, you can never say one more word out of you, I'm going to give you a 2-round penalty. That's ridiculous. So that definitely has to change. So in terms of what the tournament director's discretion, in terms of the extent of it and how much he should be able to use, I think that should be toned down, because I think it was excessive on Jack Effel's part with his discretion, because I think he used his discretion badly. Lack of common sense, especially coming onto the feature table and in the middle of a hand, facing an all-in bet to try and give me a ruling, and then to give me a wrong ruling as well on top of it to make it look even worse. I think in that regard, the rules have to change 100%. Going forward, I think a lot of people are asking for the rules to be changed and a bit more clarity and transparency, like I said, and most importantly, consistency. We're going to have a consistent rule for everyone. There's not one rule for likes of Josephine, likes of Helmuth, and they get away with it. And people like Mike Mattisau to run their mouth and insult players at the table. I've seen it in past WSOP videos. People have tagged me in it. Mike Mattisau against Sean Chacon, and they're berating, insult each other across the table. You're an idiot, and I think nothing's happened because they are who they are. They're the big personalities in the game. They're big names in the game. Jack Effel's not there. He was standing there. He's not going to just butt in and say, Mike, come on, you've got to turn it down. You called him an idiot. That's a 1-round penalty. Are you kidding me? That's never going to happen. But when it's this guy from Great Britain putting in the whole table on tilt, majority Americans, I felt as if they were ganging up against me. I felt I was victimized. I felt as if I was singled out for my antics and the way I was behaving, and just because of the way I played my game, that they weren't used to. I think Daniel Negreanu and one or two of his guests admitted on the podcast, this guy's just like one of a kind. We've never seen anything like this. We've heard of speech players, we've heard of Jamie Galt, but this guy's like completely
not like
different.
this.
We've never seen anyone like this. I took that as a massive compliment. I like to be unique. I like to be different. I like to like change things for the better.
Poker's been around so long. Televised poker's been around so long, so it's hard to be different.
Yeah. That's it. I got a lot of compliment by a lot of people here. I don't want to blow my own trumpet. I have like 55 selfies minimum from everyone having here come to shake my hand. Not only people are saying that they love the banter, the entertainment, and the fun factor that I brought to WSOP this year compared to previous years, which is really dull, and the ratings have gone through the roof, understandably. But they've realised the reason behind it and my speech play strategy, and they said what I like about your game so much more than all the fun and the entertainment, which is fantastic, is that you found an edge in the game. You found an edge in the modern game of live poker, which is extremely hard to do because everyone plays like the kind of the maths, look at the maths and the pot odds and the same kind of like game theory, if you like. And this is like a new area that's just being explored right now. This whole psychological aspect of the game, the mental game, getting into your opponent's mind, trying to understand what they're thinking, you're thinking they have, and vice versa. So there's a whole different level of thinking, rather than just playing your hand and getting on with it and getting frustrated, looking at pot odds. And
not running the numbers.
Indeed. So it's a new thing, and I think it's massive. So hopefully this is going to create a whole new craze of people talking at the table, being more active. I hope I'm not going to be responsible for any more carnage.
Jack Evel's going to quit. He's
Yeah.
like, I can't handle all that.
He may have to. Now, that's not down to me whether he quits, he resigns, or gets a sack. That's nothing to do with me. But I've got to say what I have to say in terms of what I saw and my experience, and like what everyone else has seen on the coverage anyway. So I've got nothing to hide. But yeah, I think things have to change, and I think I'm getting massive compliments now for effectively finding that edge in the game that hasn't always been there, that people haven't explored or haven't exploited themselves. And I've done it to the extreme. I'm not asking everyone to do what I do. I don't expect everyone to do what I do to the extent
No one can do what you do. It's so personalized, so they have to find their own way of doing speech play and what works for them.
Indeed, every poker player has to have their own style of playing. You've got to develop your own style. There's only a certain amount where you can look at the players like Doyle Brunson, Phil Ivey, Phil Helmuth, Daniel Negreanu, Jamie Galt, think, I want to do like they do. I want to say what they say. There's only a certain amount that you can, I like the speech play part of it. I'm going to talk more at the table. That's fine. But don't copy exactly what they say. Don't do exactly what they say and make the same moves as they do. Develop your own style of playing. Come up with your own sayings and catchphrases. Be a fun kind of like character at the table, because poker needs characters. Poker needs personalities. And without personalities and characters in the game, it's a dying game, honestly. So both for like poker in general, live poker and televised poker especially, you need characters in the game. This is live poker in the day. It's a social game. No one wants to see 12 robots on the table, whether wear hoodies or not, or sunglasses or headphones or whatever, saying nothing for 12 hours a day, putting chips in the pot and scratching the head and not doing anything, just tanking in silence, which is even worse. At least if I'm going to tank, I'm going to be doing something about it. I'm going to be doing a lot of speech play when I'm tanking. I'm not going to tank in silence and not say a word. So like I said, go back to my previous point, just enjoy the game for what it is. It's live poker. If the game's going to evolve for the better, I think a lot of people have to be talking in pots, and I understand you can't do it in multi-way pots, but get involved, be social, even when you're not in a hand. Just make a conversation with your neighbour. Just be social. There's no harm. What have you got to lose? You can make new friends. It's a great environment to meet loads of people from all walks of life, from all different kind of backgrounds and where they're from, in different countries around the world. It's a great experience. Why would you lose that experience and not take that opportunity to get to know new people, make new friends, and be sociable around the table and be friendly with players that you're going to be effectively going to war with chips throughout the whole day? You want to have that kind of friendly environment. Why would you want to have that toxic, kind of like alienated environment where the whole table is angry at each other throughout the whole day? It doesn't create a good atmosphere for anyone, not you, not them, and it's not going to be a fun experience for anyone. So I think in general, if you're going to have a fun and entertaining time, a good time at the poker table, you have to be talkative, you have to get involved. Don't have to do the speech play like I do and speak to your opponent every hand and worried about giving tells away, because obviously it's not everyone's game. But just be yourself, just be sociable, just interact with the other players. It's a social game, it should be a fun game, and that's how it should be going forward.
The way you talk, it sounds like you're just saying, just be a normal human being.
They say, well, in a way. I mean, I understand everyone's got their own personality. Some people are quite reserved and keep themselves to themselves. They don't want to say a word. That's fine. But at least, say hello, how are you? And just general kind of like a good
Etiquette.
bit of etiquette and just a common, basic good manners, basically, at the table. So, yeah, don't insult anyone, don't berate anyone. It's not my style. Just enjoy the game for what it is.
Speaking of, we're going to do one last question about Griffin. At SFB1442, has Will talked to Benger since the final table? And if so, what was said?
No, I haven't talked to Benger. I haven't talked to anyone from WSOP, whether it's players or Jack Effel. No one's contacted me. I probably understand why. They wouldn't want to contact me because I think they're in the wrong and I'm in the right. And they'd know they wouldn't have a leg to stand on if they started having an argument with me in terms of how they acted or how I acted, or if I had any comments about them. I've taken to social media recently. I think Daniel Negreanu has tweeted me on at least 5-6 different posts backing me up on several things and commenting about Griffin Benger being way out of line, and what he was actually doing was verbal abuse. So he was slating Benger for saying that I was verbally abusing him on the feature table, when it was in fact, it's quite ironic that Benger was directly insulting me across the day, and he was the one verbally abusing me and calling me an idiot and check your privilege, etc. So yeah, to say that was ridiculous. I haven't spoken to Griffin Benger. I think he's probably hiding away because he's embarrassed from what he said.
He did have a somewhat funny tweet. He said, I don't get something along the lines of, I don't get what the big deal was. It was just locker room talk.
Yeah, so I think he's just playing it down. I think he has to say what he has to say to save face. But I think the damage is done. The whole world has seen, what a disgrace it was for him to say what he said and how he acted and reacted, especially at that stage of the tournament, especially considering his standing in the community. I think he's voted #1 online player in the world a couple of years ago. Not that I play online, but that's what I heard. So to hear that from someone of his standing in the community was a disgrace, really. It was shocking. It was embarrassing on his part. So I haven't had an apology from him. I should receive an apology from him, but that's down to him. It'll come down to his character and his judgment, whether he's man enough to sincerely offer me an apology for the way he acted, because I think he has climbed down a bit and admitted in an interview his perception of me was wrong, and I wasn't anywhere near as bad as I was made out to be from the likes of like Gordon Vayo especially, who like to shit stir, if you like, and lied about me, saying I berated a woman to tears, which is absolute rubbish. So I think the likes of him have got into the minds of Benger and maybe even Jerry Wong, because I think Jerry Wong is friends with Gordon Vayo. So I think Gordon Vayo would have given the same information to him, and that may explain why Jerry Wong didn't want to shake my hand, because he took me as like a vile human being who berates women to tears, which is completely rubbish. It couldn't be further from the truth. So I think that's another reason why they acted the way they did. I think they should all hang their heads in shame. They should all be embarrassed from the way they acted, not just towards me, but just as poker players individually and collectively, and with the whole world watching them. It's embarrassment this year for players of their standing. You'd understand maybe if it's an amateur, like $100 tournament, a bunch of amateurs and people flipping out and because they have a bad beat or whatever, but we're talking about the best players in the world here, some of the most biggest names in poker, who have got a massive name for themselves in the poker community. So for the way they reacted, it's shocking, it's disgraceful, it's embarrassing. So they've got to hang their heads in shame. I think I can keep my head held up high. I did nothing wrong, played within the rules. I was courteous to everyone, didn't disrespect or insult anyone at the table. Tried to shake all of their hands, but two of them obviously just decided not to. But that's their prerogative. I think I did the right thing. I could only do what I think is the best thing to do at the time. So I thought I acted like much more of a gentleman than any of the others put together, to be honest. But it is what it is. You've seen it now. The whole world's seen it now. Hopefully going forward, we see obviously better behaviour from the players, especially high calibre players like that, and more importantly, a change in the rules, more consistency in the WSOP rules.
Are you going to be watching the November 9?
I may do. If I'm not like washing my hair or doing something else, then yeah, I might watch it.
How long does it take to wash your hair?
Not long. I was only joking, Sasha. But
clearly,
I'll probably watch it. Yeah, no sour grapes. Yeah, I'd love to see it. Why not? Let's see who's the world champion. Let's see. I'm hoping to see a worthy winner. I'm hoping to see someone who deserves to win it, and whether it is Josephine or Benger or Vayo or one or two others, that I didn't particularly like, or the way they acted to me. I'm definitely not rooting for them, but if they go out there and win it, and they play good poker and deserve to win it, and they're worthy champions, I'll say fair play to them. Yeah, I wish them good luck and say congratulations. But I think from the lineup that I've seen, considering the way that majority of them acted towards me, despicable behaviour, especially from quite a few of them. I think the only two that I didn't get involved in was Michael Rowan and Qui Win. I think the one who was always wearing the raccoon hat. Nice guy. I played with him actually, but I never played with Rowan. So if there's any two that I'm going to root for, it's going to be Rowan and Qui Win. So yeah, good luck to them. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, wouldn't want any of the others to win. Put it that way.
Well, I'm sure the viewers are disappointed you're not going to be there because it made for such great television and entertainment. Yeah. But you've made it through chatting with a woman without making her cry. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you. There you go. You see, are you laughing?
See, you
this is how it should be. This is how live interviews should be right here. There you go.
Laughing, no tears.
Just laughing. Just enjoying banter, good banter, that's it. That's what it's all about, just having good banter, enjoying yourself.
Well, thanks for chatting with us, and thank the people out there for their questions. And of course, stay tuned to pokernews.com.
That's great. Cheers.